Okay, the next game we are ranking is The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, which was nominated by @AlbertArtDavis on Twitter. This game was developed by Nintendo EAD and published by Nintendo for the Super Famicom, Super Nintendo. Its earliest known release date and territory is November 21st, 1991 in Japan. That sounds like a very long time ago, but doesn't feel like a very long time ago.
Well, if you think about who you were when you first played it, if you're anything like me, you wouldn't even recognize that guy now. I mean, that was a lifetime ago, when you really take yourself back. But it's always been around. Like, A Link to the Past has not gone away in any substantial sense. It's got a sequel, like 3 years ago or something? Link Between Worlds?
Crazy.
Yeah, people still love it.
It was a long time ago, but I still remember logging into Usenet on my 44K modem to register my discontent with this purple-pink hair in the game. Register my discontent around the globe.
And that was when Link was a relatively new character. This was his third game total. So there wasn't such a huge precedent that he always had to be basically just a Tolkien elf ripoff. He could be a pink-haired fella, but you were not into it, even then.
No, I don't think I care.
So, well, the official art never put him with pink hair, did it? Or was it in the manual he has pink hair?
I don't think so. If I remember correctly, they've been very open about the fact that they made his hair pink just so it would stand out better against all the browns in the game.
You know how much we need to see his hair.
Yeah.
Without Link's hair, the whole illusion is gone. You know, like the suspension of disbelief is just out the window because I can't see his hair.
Yeah, that is ultimately my one criticism with Ocarina of Time. Frankly, is they don't do enough with the hair. He does not look like he has been frequenting a hot topic or anything.
And he never takes his hat off that whole game. He wakes up with his hat on, right?
Yeah. Mario loses his hat on the N64.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, it is kind of a nightcap, you know, like he just happens to wear it during the day. I think that's the weird part.
He never gets out of his
He looks like he just stepped out of like the night before Christmas or something. Like he's always wearing that thing.
Well, in Link to the Past, it's really just one really, really, really long day for Link. Like, he just gets up in the middle of the night. It's like, oh, I gotta go save my uncle and stuff. And they're just like, well, now we gotta do this. And it's like, oh, my
whipping
God,
back
I
and
just
forth
sleep.
in the dark world, light world. It's all messed up. It's like, when does he get to sleep? I don't know.
I mean,
he turns into a pink rabbit. I just figured out the hair thing.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only way they could make it make sense.
Thank you. Yeah, that's plausible.
That pink rabbit thing makes very little sense in the context of the game. Very little sense. The inner spirit of Link is a little pink fluffy bunny.
Okay, so this is the third Zelda game. Mm-hmm. It's the second real Zelda game. Like, Zelda 2 is kind of not really a Zelda game. It was a crazy... No, I like Zelda 2. It's ridiculously too hard. The combat is crazy awkward, but it's a cool game and everybody should play it. But it's not like, if you don't play one of the Zelda games, like, that's the one. That's one of the early ones that you might want to consider skipping.
Leaving out the CDI games.
Right.
Those
are really
Yeah. I always do think it's kind of weird how Nintendo has this pattern. You have this first game that kind of sets up the concept and it's kind of rough. You have the sequel that just goes in a completely different direction. That's always kind of divisive. And then you have your third game, which is the first game, but better in every way.
I mean, happened with Mario, happened with something else.
Interestingly, it didn't happen with Metroid. They just went straight from Metroid to Metroid again and Metroid again.
Metroid 2 is the most weird Metroid.
Yeah, I think they definitely did it with Metroid.
You can technically count Star Fox 2 if you want.
Huh, I guess you could, even though Star Fox 2 never came out.
I mean, Link to the Past, I mean, we were discussing off recording, because we're crazy, that this game is old, but also it used to be pretty much like a game that almost every single gamer in existence had played, and we've probably moved past that point now, so we actually have to reiterate what it is.
It's kind of like now it's Ocarina of Time that everybody has kind of played, and even that is fading now. It's, I don't know what it is now, like Schmenchen or the Wim Wham or something, whatever they call them now. The interesting thing about this game is, like, as we said, like, it's not, this is before really the Zelda thing was nailed down. This is kind of the game that did the nailing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's like it defined the traditions in the sense that it made them into traditions in a lot of ways. And it's really good. It's got this light world, dark world thing. Like, every Zelda game has to have some kind of gimmick. now. It's the first one to have a gimmick. And this one is, as we were talking about, the pink rabbit. Who wants to get into a little bit like...
The lore?
No, the opposite of that. What's
the gameplay?
I guess it's hard to explain because it is just top-down Zelda, but there really aren't that many top-down Zeldas. So,
yeah, I would. I could hazard an attempt at that. It was the first one to integrate kind of a dialogue-heavy story at times. So that was one of the first it did for the series. There's various characters who you actually talk to. There's a uncle who dies at the spoilers. He dies at the end. And,
I love that uncle. He's just so amazing. Like, just offhand, real quick. What was the plan with the uncle? Like, because, the start of the game is, the uncle goes to save the world. He gets about 8 meters and falls over and dies.
Immediately dies. All right, now it's time to hand this over to my much more capable nephew.
Who we just hold in bed and he'd be back tomorrow. Like,
and they only have one bed in that house.
Oh.
Anyway,
it was ye olden days,
That's fair. I will accept that it's
they had to stay in the same bed. So
yeah,
that's all it was. Olden
I'll
days.
accept it.
Yeah, it was the first game in the Zelda timeline for a little while. Speaking of which, it was a.
Oh boy, if you want some fun, go read that timeline.
Oh no, yeah.
I don't think even Nintendo is sure if that timeline is right. I think they've gone back and forth on that.
That's the thing. It's like it's about as meaningful as if you create a Mario timeline. It's like, where does Mario's Picross fall into this? It's like it doesn't matter. It's not.
It's funny you should mention that. Tom Hewlett, who worked at Konami and made some Silent Hill games that were very controversial, he emailed me last year and was like, "I made the Mario timeline. Will you post it on the website?" I'm like, "Of course, Tom." So it's up there. It's huge. It is a huge file.
Does he include the spin-off stuff, like Mario's Tennis and?
Yeah, I think so.
I feel like you should link this somewhere for our viewers because I think they need to see this, and so do I.
I'll send you the link for sure. It's up on the website, destructoid.com somewhere. But back to Link to the Past. I'm so sorry. Got so excited.
So, is this the game? If you were to recommend somebody to play a classic Zelda or a classic styled Zelda, is this the one you'd point him to, and why? If so.
I am such a stickler for knowing who I recommend things to because I truly believe taste is subjective, and it's very hard to make a list of games that's truly scientific. So I really hats off to you guys for
as much as that goes against the very conceit of the whole podcast. I respect your viewpoint. Let's just say this is a person who can handle playing an old game and would like a kind of action-heavy action RPG.
Sure.
They would like Zelda. Which one would you point them to? Is it this one or?
If they are Undertale fans, I say Link's Awakening. If they are Skyrim fans, I say Link to the Past. So if you're bread and butter, you're serious, but of course it's a cute game because it's of that era. But still, it doesn't get too surreal and break your suspension of disbelief with a talking alligator and stuff like that, as a Link's Awakening does. Then I say Link to the Past. But if you're someone who wants things goofy and surreal, then I usually put a Link's Awakening on the Game Boy above Link to the Past. I think they're kind of tied in my world.
I do think that because Link's Awakening came after, they were like, okay, Link to the Past, let's just cut out a few things that didn't work, add some things that we want, and that's it. That's Link's Awakening. Go.
In terms of gameplay. But in terms of scenario, Link's Awakening it's practically an Animal Crossing game. It just goes completely off the rails, and eventually, spoilers, at the end, you talk to a giant flying whale who says, "Oh, you're just dreaming," and then you just wake up. It's really weird. Link's Awakening.
It's a great game. I think that this game, the story is, this is obviously one of the first, as you said, the first Zelda Link games to really tackle the story, but at the same time, it's a very, very light, very basic story. It's gotta go get some amulets, I gotta go rescue Zelda, but actually I gotta go rescue these other princesses who never show up in another game, I don't think. It's not there's not too much going on.
Well, no. I mean, Zelda 2, to the extent we count it, right, is like it does have like the villagers and like it has I am error and all that stuff.
Yeah, but not to be a stickler, but I'm standing by my point. This is a time to defend your points and be tough. Guys, right?
Well, in the sense that it's like a top-down Zelda game where the only people you talk to aren't like hermits in caves.
Yeah, there's a little town in Zelda 2, and then, Zelda gets kidnapped, and then she gets saved, and then she gets kidnapped again, and then you have to talk to the princess.
The Triforce of something.
Yeah, there was quite a few cutscenes. You talk to Zoras for some reason for a while, and then get their slippers. They're very simple cutscenes, but they were, in fact, moving a story along, which was kind of a first, I think.
Much more so than the other Zelda games. This one had a lot of, like, cool but superfluous stuff to collect and do. Like, it was heavy on the side quests if you want to get all, like, the pieces of the heart and stuff like that. I don't know side quests, but, like, it was a lot more involved than that. I mean, that existed from the beginning.
Do you remember? Some people still cry about the kid who was a tree, I think, in the Dark World, and then you bring him back. That was the cutscene-y, touchy-feely time, and then you bring him back to life, but that makes him dead, and then you get a flute from him.
Yeah, I hated Flute Kid. Freaking stupid. Like, everyone who goes to Dark World, they go to Dark World and they're like, oh, I'm a monster or I'm a thing. And he's like, oh, I can't play the flute and now I'm dead. Like,
I mean,
what happened here?
Poor
well, on top of that, you've got, like, the shovel and the feather and the hook shot and all these other things that are like staples of. I mean, where would you be without the shovel?
The hook shot's brilliant. That's a fantastic piece of kit.
Yeah, it was. And that was a first for that. Then the whole level, speaking of cutscenes, I'm really harping on my point, where you find a girl, and you're like, oh, a girl, you must be in trouble. I have to save you. All girls are in trouble in Zelda forever. And then you lead her around, and she's like, that's not it. And you lead her somewhere else. She's like, no, no. And then you have to put her under a lamp or something. No, I'm sorry,
you have to
window.
break the ceiling.
Yeah, and then she's like, I was a demon. Total cutscene magic. I was like, whoa, story has been told. My mind's blown. Yeah,
there are a lot of cool set pieces in the game. Not a lot, but there are quite a few.
I do appreciate this game is somewhat more of an actual living world.
Yeah.
Like the first Zelda game, it was just this big open area with crazy old people hate you living in caves. 2 is just this big stretch of land like the occasional town.
Mm-hmm.
But here, this feels like an actual world, like places you can visit, and it feels a little bit more cohesive, I'd say.
Mm-hmm. This was when Nintendo was getting heavily influenced by Itoei, who made Earthbound with them. And they wanted to get some of that quirk pretty hard. And that slight, is this a joke or is this just incredibly weird and cute feeling? And they pulled it off.
You think that was definitely that was direction among the developers and the producers?
That's what I've read.
Or whether it's a translator thing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Well, some of it is just hardwired into the game, regardless of how the dialogue is done. My understanding is, in reading some of Clyde Mandelin over at Fangamer, his stuff about the thinking at Nintendo at the time and their influences, just how much they loved Itoei and how hard they pushed to get him to keep making games with them. I see more and more of his touches, or at least the influence from him in all the games from that Super Nintendo era. They really loved him. That's how it looks.
It is. I mean, it's funny that I'd never heard that before, but it rings true in as far as I can tell. That does feel like this is one of the early games where that has that sort of whimsical touch to it, and it became a very standard Nintendo thing. I do want to say, like, I feel like there's also a lot of Dragon Quest that we see in here, not in the terms of the gameplay, but in terms of, like, you've got like the little. They're not really like side stories or even side quests. It's more like just little characters who tell like a really tiny story. And much more so than, I would say, even the Mother series, at least at that time, the original Mother has some little things in there, but it's really very focused on the story of the characters. When the Dragon Quest games, especially as they went on, I think that and they have this to this day, where it's like they're just like little, and they're always these usually kind of bittersweet little stories about little characters in the world, and you'll talk to them and they'll tell you a little bit, like, you know, kind of overshare a little bit, and that kind of gives you this sort of like whimsical but sort of like, you know, it's got this, you know, narrative sweet and sour thing going on.
Absolutely.
Like with the flute kid, and like, you know, you've got like the or is it the Dwarf Brothers, and there's like
their house is all broken down. There's a weird man sitting in the desert with a sign that says something like "Don't talk to me" or "Don't notice me."
That
and then he turns out to be an important character.
That is very Earthbound. That right there. That does.
Yeah, but it's very Dragon Quest too. And as you may know already, Toei absolutely loved Dragon Quest. He like brought a Famicom over to get other people to play Dragon Quest. He was that guy for a while.
Wow, I did not know that either.
Yeah, he was. From what I have read, he wasn't necessarily into all video games that much, but Dragon Quest was like huge in his life, and it was just huge in Japan at that point too.
Yeah.
What with the Toriyama connection and all that, sucking people right in.
Yeah, and I think that stuck with the Zelda series to this day, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, there's all these weird little vignettes that you get in every one of these games as they go on. Even in like something like Triforce Heroes, which may be like the case of like a weird little town that takes place in, for all the things that are wrong with that game. And I think
it definitely had the very interesting personality, willing to take risks by putting Link in a cheerleader outfit and even a Zelda outfit, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Definitely had its charms.
I have a friend who's got a very young daughter. She's like 4 years old, and she was over at my house and was like, video games, what do you got this? And I was like, I had a Super Nintendo hooked up, and she was like, oh, I want to use that. And I was like, okay. So I was like, well, am I going to pop in here for a young kid? So I popped in Link to the Past, and that was like the most interesting 45 minutes I've ever seen of like a 4-year-old playing a video game, because like she left the house and then just wandered around in a circle around the house and was just blown away that she like the world was like so alive and was like reacting, and there was like these green guys and they would chase her around, and she's like, I don't want to hit him. It was perfect. Never even made it to the castle, never crossed the bridge, never did anything productive.
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of the first third of the game might be the strongest. It kind of spirals a bit out of control of their design as you get further into Dark World, because it gets more and more difficult to work out how or where you're supposed to actually go where you need to be. And the dungeons start to unravel a bit. They get kind of just big and just big.
And there's some weird, which I think I'd actually like to see more of in the series. Like, what do I use this weapon for now? If I remember correctly, there's a wand you get that can make blocks or elevators. And you're like, do I use that? And I think I just fudged my way and sort of broke the game. My sequence broke a little bit and did stuff I wasn't supposed to do in order to get through some of those levels towards the end, which maybe they intended. I'd have to look into it, or whether I did in fact break the game. But that was sort of fun to be able to go off script a little bit for a Zelda game. That doesn't happen as much these days.
It's true. They have to. I mean, the more complicated they get, the more scripted they kind of have to be, which is a problem with a lot of different kind of games. I say we move on to ranking this one. Does everybody have the list up?
Yes, we do.
Mm-hmm.
I can sort of. Oh yeah, I got it. It's number 1.
I don't think it should. Definitely top 10, I would say.
Yeah, I'm not far off from number 1. I'm willing to entertain the idea. I think it's definitely. I personally would put it. I would personally put this at number 1. I'm probably not going to win that fight. At the very least, I'm putting it above Metal Gear Solid.
That sounds fair. I agree with
Metal Gear Solid is an interesting one because the deeper you go into Metal Gear Solid, the more you realize it is actually basically linked to the past in terms of every element of it.
Elaborate on that point, please.
Yes.
If you want me to, but if you think it's designed as a top-down game, it is quite literally going from point to point to get items to unlock new areas that you go through. Each area culminates with a boss often solved either through something that you have or it gives you something to get to the next area. It's all broken out in these specific regions. You unlock things to move quickly between different areas. The enemies all respawn. They chase you around when they catch you. Like, there is so much in that game that is basically, hey, this is basically modern Zelda.
Huh. I always thought it was just Pac-Man with guns.
Exactly, which is pretty close.
I mean, there
Well,
are
it all
other
comes-
Metal Gear games that predate this.
Yeah, but I would say Metal Gear Solid is the most Link to the Past-ish.
Mhm.
I'll defend Cal on that one. But they all basically come from Pac-Man. Pac-Man is everything. Is Pac-Man going to be your number one? Have you decided that already?
That's actually
Somebody has to nominate.
yeah.
Oh, I will.
Oh, that'd
Right
be a fun
now,
thing.
just for the to properly populate the theater of the mind here. The top of the list that we have right now is Super Mario 64, Super Mario Brothers 3, Doom, Metal Gear Solid, Lode Runner Online, Devil May Cry, Earthbound, Bionic Commando, Toe Jam, and Earl.
I mean, the short of it is, I gotta agree. There's no way it's going kind of below Devil May Cry. Anywhere below that region, it's not happening, kind of. So
I personally would put this, like, you know where I'd put this. I think it could easily wind up above Doom.
What?
Doom is a fantastic thing. I am playing Doom right now, in fact. I enjoyed, well, not as I'm sitting here talking. That would be kind of a dickish thing to do. Doom is great. Doom is also a game where you can get lost looking for a blue key for 20 minutes, wandering
But you
through
get
line
lost
maze.
in Link to the Past.
you can get
all
lost
the
for like
time.
2 hours.
But being lost in Link to the Past is way more fun than being lost
Yeah.
in Doom.
In a way, but there's a point where you're like, how do I get another jar? How the hell do I get it? What do I need a jar for? Why is the jar so important? You know,
I
that
mean,
kind of
the
thing.
game gets to a point where it's like, here, take this hammer. All right, cool. Now what do I do? Well, I don't know. Just go figure it out. It's like, all right, I've got to go
Knock down
find
some
a nail.
pegs.
There's a nail somewhere on the map, and I must hit it with this hammer.
But I mean, there's other things to do with the hammer in Doom. The puzzle you solve in the midst of being lost is, oh, look, the pinkies respawned. Oh,
I think even the
Yeah,
creators
but-
of Doom would agree
but
on
that's not what Doom is about. Like, Doom is not trying to.
no, it's not. But it
you're-
winds up being that way anyway if you're not playing at an expert level, which I'm going to
But
go ahead
it's
and admit
not-
now.
but-
Not at an expert level at Doom.
Well, I'm just saying, like, Doom isn't trying to provide you with like any kind
to
of
do.
extra stuff. It's like it's the blue key, and it's the blue key. It opens the blue door. You know, it's like that's what it does. It's like there's no you're supposed to find your way around the level and survive. Also, just in terms of like innovation, well, I mean, I guess maybe Doom isn't. Doom is almost more of a technical achievement in a lot of ways than it is a game design achievement. Although the level
Yeah.
design is very solid,
It
and
is.
we did complain about the level design of the last 2/3 of Link to the Past does get a little bit weird.
I didn't
Um,
complain. I love it. Secret breaking, being confused. So fun.
The interesting thing is I don't play this game a lot, kind of because I like to approach it every, like with a big gap, so I kind of forget what to do, and so every time I played it, a lot of points where I'm just like getting lost, and not lost, but like trying to figure out like what am I supposed to do here? What I can't remember. Like after the Master Sword, which is one of the coolest little parts of the game. Like it's a cool,
it
very
is.
Disney-esque almost scene with like the little forest creatures romping away and stuff. But after that, like
quick segue. I can't help but share this. I used to have a save of Link to the Past where you go to the Lost Woods to get the sword, because that's the only time you get to hear the music before the Lost Woods lights up after you get the sword. There's special music that plays that I love so much that I kept a save aside just for the music. I would just like listen to it and feel good.
And the music is excellent. I mean, this is Nintendo firing on all cylinders in the Super Famicom era. So, okay, I'll make a peace offering here. I'll say right below
Right below
Well,
you give
nothing
it
at the top. That's
Yeah,
the
Metal
piece
Gear
off.
Solid.
You're above Metal Gear Solid or below
No,
it?
below. I would say below.
Below. Interesting.
I would say Metal Gear Solid is more important to game design in the future than Link to the Past kind of was. I would also say that there are other Zelda games that are like Link to the Past that you could play and get a lot of the same stuff out of. Whereas with Metal Gear Solid, that's kind of like the crystallization of the Metal Gear Solid series.
I still have to put it above Metal Gear Solid. Cal, where do you think?
Oi. I'm sort of sweating because the problems I would have with Link to the Past are kind of more because it was made in 1991. Like it's gonna really struggle for this game to purely in like a physical sense beat Metal Gear Solid, because Metal Gear Solid was several years later on more powerful hardware. so it could kind of get away with more.
This is very 1991. There's a lot of kid and play in there that I feel like kind of doesn't age very well. A lot of,
there's like little weird things in Link to the Past. Like you can actually, I'm pretty sure you can drag your system to a halt if you hit enough grass at once and stuff. It's kind of like, whoa, that was.
There's also that weird secret room for the contest winner thing, right?
That was great that they stuck that guy's name in it. That was so cool.
It's so impossible to find that like only that guy would know. They told him, and it's like.
Yeah, you have to bug out the game. It's the error crashing room. If you somehow break the game, you'll go to that room.
So below or above Metal Gear Solid? You're saying above?
On a personal level, I prefer Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry.
Is it time to get the coin?
I would probably lean more to Metal Gear Solid because I think that Metal Gear Solid is, as you said, the kind of this is great Metal Gear. This is like the best Metal Gear. I'm really not sure if Link to the Past is the best one because I like Link's Awakening more. I think Link's Awakening is better.
I think I've slowly kind of maybe turned that corner, so I'm just warning you guys. There's going to be a lot of Link Awakening fighting on my end, and maybe also for Ocarina of Time, if this is where we wind up putting Link to the Past. But with that proviso, and if Jonathan's okay with it, because he's our guest and we want to make him comfortable. We could
proviso.
Here solid.
Just keep saying proviso if you want me.
Borrowing from our friend Satanga, who was not with us tonight.
Pillow of a word. Oof, comfy proviso.
What do you think?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, what does my opinion count for anything? I mean, I don't like Mario 64 like at all. Don't like it. Mario 3, good. Doom's pretty fun, but I can play it for like 10 minutes and feel like got it, done. Don't need any more Doom right now. Metal Gear Solid 1, don't like it. Boring. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do those things. Not interested in the problems to solve. Just lying around under some like grates, waiting for a guy to like go do something else. No, thank you. So for me, number 1, Link to the Past, number 1.
Okay, so you're for the topmost vote then.
Oh yeah.
So whatever. So we've got.
We kind of got 2 above, 2 below. Do you want to coin toss this one? I think it's the fairest way to do it.
There's 5 of us, right?
Bob
is here.
And he did play this game as like what, a 2-year-old? What did he say? Like,
man, you're like,
I'm gonna say 3 to 4. Games. So I'm sorry, nostalgia's hitting me here. I gotta put it above.
All right.
And that decides it.
Why'd you give him the keys, man? All right, that's all we can do.
That decides it. So
like the cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid, though, they're funny.
Yeah.
Those are the good parts.
Yeah, I complained about those, so I don't agree on anything.
I don't think they're like good, but they're fun, funny good.
I think that's a lot of Kojima's work can basically be described. I don't know if it's good, but it's fun.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go. So The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past goes right below Doom, right above Metal Gear Solid.